Hey, YouTube. It is Coach Jamila here, Jamila McMallow. This is actually my very first live stream on YouTube. So, I didn't schedule it or anything. So I'm not expecting, there'd be a ton of people out there watching right now. But I just wanted to try this out as it were, because it is going to be something that I'm going to start doing. It's something that I've done, streamed on Facebook, streamed on LinkedIn and all those things. So why not stream live on YouTube? Okay, let's try something new. So you clicked on this video because you saw love hurts. Well, what in the world does that mean, right? And what I'm going to be talking about is how you can invest into a relationship without feeling like you're going to lose your shirt, like you're going to lose everything. Because that is really the biggest drawback when it comes to getting into a relationship is what happens if it ends. A lot of times we keep our mindset focused on, well, what happens if it doesn't work out? Well, what happens if something goes wrong? That tends to be what we're focused on. But I want to share a quick story with you, and then I'm gonna make the connection. So, last year we purchased a Volvo XC90. It is an SUV. It was brand new, and I love it. Okay, and we recently took it in for some maintenance. And the type of car we had before, we had two Hyundais, and we got those new as well. And Hyundai's a good brand; they were nice, but I just want to contrast it to this experience. So, and I've never had this before. So we took the Volvo in for maintenance, and like the next day or so, or maybe that's when I was checking the email. He probably sent it the same day. We got an email actually from the technician who had worked on our car, and in the email was a video of him literally walking around the underbelly of the car, walking around to each tire, showing us what the pressure was in each tire, filling us in on, what about this part and what about that part, was good or whatever. And I personally have never, ever, ever, ever had a car where when I took it in, I got a video from the guy working on my car showing me the status of the different systems in my car. So I was like, okay, I was impressed, right? Because how do we feel every time we take our car in? We feel like, somebody, I'm going to get screwed over. They know what they're talking about. And especially as a woman, it's like they know what they're talking about. And I don't. When I was single and I had my car, I would take it in. He talking about the whatever is broken needs to be topped up. Okay, I'm just paying for it because at that point I'm like, I don't know. So y'all you just gonna have to rip me off. So my point is when we go in to take our car, we always feel like, I just know they're gonna lie about something. They're gonna rip me off. But this experience, when this video came and I saw this man walking, and now I didn't see him, right? The video was just of the car and him explaining the different parts and what he did. I said, okay, now see, I like this because what was the point of that video? What is the feeling that people have when they take their car in? Distrust, feeling like, I'm going to get messed over. By him sending me that video, I could see that he's pointing out to me all these different areas of my car, what great condition they're in. And if there had been a problem, if he had pointed that out, it just felt more legitimate because it's as if I was with him there in the, in the mechanics room doing whatever. And so what did that video engender in me for this experience of taking my car back to the Volvo dealership? Trust. It engendered trust. See, what the Volvo dealership understands is that when a person comes in there to buy a brand new Volvo, they're getting ready to drop 60 to 90K. Okay. And they know that it is an experience. That's why that person is there to buy the car. And so they're not thinking about you buying that car one time and then never coming back. No, they're like, no, we want you to come back and buy another car and another car and another car. And guess what? That was a part of the experience. Him fixing my car, sending me that video, showing me, engendering that trust, building a relationship, making me feel special and important. So now when I go to another car dealership, if in a few years I want to get a new car, what do you think I'm going to be looking for when it comes to services and things like that, and how that experience of buying that car makes me feel? Do I trust this brand? See, what Volvo just did, what this specific dealership just did, was it engendered trust. I now trust them, and they are building a relationship because they want my business long term. Now, what made me even choose Volvo? I didn't know that that was going to be the amazing experience I was going to get when I took my car in for maintenance. But what made me choose this brand? Now, before I get into that, if you're just joining me now on the chat, please drop a hey, what's up in the chat. And please click subscribe and click the notification bell so you can get notified of any future lives that I do or new videos that I drop, because I'm going to be dropping new content at least once a week. Okay. So now, how did I even come to choose the Volvo brand? Well, it actually goes back to childhood. We grew up with Volvos. We always had Volvos. And we had one in particular that was like a Volvo station wagon. And my parents bought it brand new, like the year after I was born, and drove it into the ground, literally. And we took it everywhere. We lived in Michigan, and we used to drive to Louisiana to visit our grandparents. We drove to California. We drove to Florida to take my sister to college. We drove literally all over the continent of the United States in that Volvo station wagon. So there were a couple of qualities that I already knew were true about a Volvo. They are safe and they last a long time. Like I said, by the time my parents got rid of that car, it was over 20 years old. And it was only because the snow and the salt had gotten to it. They let one of my sisters take it, one of my older sisters take it, and she didn't get it properly cared for during the wintertime. And you know what that'll do to your car, it'll rust it out. So they were just kind of like, well, it's just looking too bad, we gotta get rid of it. But it probably would have kept driving. Here's my point, is that safety and high quality were the two things that stood out in my mind about this brand. So when it came time for me to choose a car, I wanted to look into the Volvo brand. And I had been looking at this car for over a year. So I had done my research. It wasn't like some hasty decision, because, the Volvo dealership doesn't do like, oh, it's the big, Labor Day sale or any of that stuff. No. And so I have been talking about it and looking at it, like I said, for over a year. My husband is actually the one. I went and test drove the car. I told him about it a little bit, and he actually made it happen, that we were able to buy it. It was kind of like an anniversary surprise. But here's what the connection that I want you to make, okay, between why is she telling me about this car and what does that have to do with me investing in a relationship? First and foremost, I chose that brand based on a positive childhood experience, based on beliefs that I had about that brand. And guess what? That brand expectation that my experience was going to be amazing was exceeded when I got this video of this guy fixing my car. Like, what in the world? Okay. So here's the facts. Cars are not typically viewed as an asset because they depreciate as soon as you drive off the lot. And so, unless you have like a Turo business or you're like a car service, typically cars are not viewed as assets. So you wouldn't really say necessarily that a car was an investment, but really I knew what I was investing in was an experience, an elevated experience of driving, right? An elevated feeling of safety in transporting our family, and really more space, because we had a Hyundai and then we had my daughter and we had two car seats. It was like, ugh. Okay. So my point is I got it because of how I feel when I'm driving it, how I feel when I'm in it. All right. So what is the connection? Well, when we go out into the world as single women and choose men, the type of men we choose is based upon a childhood experience. Now, our experiences with men as little girls typically boils down to one primary relationship, and that is our father. And however we experienced his presence or his absence had a huge impact on what we came to expect from our adult relationships with men. Okay. And so if you had a negative experience with your father, if he made you feel unloved, unimportant, he wasn't available for you, or he abandoned you altogether, and so that made you feel unwanted, not desirable, that feeling, those feelings are what are familiar to you. And what happens is when we grow up, our brains go out and look for what is familiar. And so, what you've been doing, perhaps, if you have been choosing poorly when it comes to your relationships with men, this is why you're having trepidation about getting into a new relationship because you're like, I don't have another 5 years to waste with a guy who won't commit. And then the year it's going to take for me to heal from that heartbreak, and the 2 years it's going to take for me to fix my credit from loaning him money and cosign. I mean, come on. So, how do you invest into a new relationship without losing everything? Well, you don't skip step one. Step one is you have to choose wisely. You have to choose the right man. And who and what is the right man? Who and what is the right man is based on how well you know yourself and who you are when you are at your absolute best. Because when we choose a man, the man that we really are desiring to become our husband, we want to choose a man that when we're in his presence, he brings out the best in us most of the time. We're not perfect. We're not always going to be, acting like we should or whatever. And that's not on him, right? Our behavior is our own. However, there are certain traits and qualities and characteristics that a person can possess that either bring out the best in us or bring out the worst in us. And you've probably had some experiences and some relationships that have brought out the worst in you, where you had to literally almost become someone different to survive the emotional combat in that relationship. Well, who you had to become to survive toxicity, who you had to become to survive that emotional combat in that relationship, that's not who you are. And it most certainly is not who you are when you are at your best. And so you have to get to know who you are when you are at your best. And that is going to guide you in the knowing of what are the traits, qualities, and characteristics that a man would have to possess in order to enhance this way of being for me. Meaning, he brings out the best in me most of the time and does not bring out the worst in me when we're together. We're not like, okay? And the thing is if all you had are these negative experiences with men, then of course that's what you're going to expect. And like I said, and if we circle it, dial it all the way back to childhood, that expectation was set there. So you have to change that expectation. You have to change what it is that you believe to be true and possible for you in a relationship with a good man. And that is what will allow you to choose wisely. And when you choose wisely, it doesn't mean that everything's going to be perfect. It just means it ain't going to be toxic. You are still going to have to work because you're two imperfect people trying to, navigate life together. You both have different backgrounds, different preferences, things like that. But it won't be toxic. It won't be abusive. It won't be any of the things that you're used to experiencing in your relationships with men. So by choosing wisely, that is how you invest in a new relationship where you're not going to lose everything. Because when you choose wisely, that means a man of good quality and of good character, and you're able to navigate that relationship in a healthy way, then even if the relationship ends, your whole life isn't in shambles because you both showed up with the same intentions, and that was, I work with women who are looking to date for the purpose of marriage. So you both were looking for someone to spend the rest of your life with. Okay, because a part of choosing wisely is let's not choose a man that doesn't want to get married if you do want to get married, okay? Don't choose a man that doesn't want to commit if you do want a commitment, okay? Choosing wisely, again, you knowing yourself and who you are when you're at your best and what you want for the relationship. If you want to be married, then you need to be talking to men who also want to be married. And that is what will allow you to choose wisely. And no, it is not conditional or dependent upon your location. It is not conditional or dependent upon your age. It is not conditional or dependent upon anything other than what it is that you choose to believe between here. Okay? When I went to buy a brand new luxury car that I was familiar with, Volvo was top of mind because I already knew the brand. I already knew what to expect. So when you go out into the world and you go to choose men, your brain goes for what it already knows, what it already expects. So when you change what you know and you change what you expect, then you're going to choose a different kind of man, a different caliber of men. There are good men all around you, but you just can't see them because you are primed and focused on what is familiar to you. For example, I'm gonna circle back to this car. We all know the example. I can use my car because my car is white. So I bought a white car. Seemed like I went on the road and everybody had a white car. Okay. But it's like yesterday, everybody wasn't driving a white car, but now they are because I went and bought one. No, it's because the day before my brain was not focused on white cars. But today it is because I'm driving one. So now my brain says, oh, that information must be important. So now I'm able to see it. All our brains take in so much information all the time. And guess what? In order for us to not lose our minds and be totally distracted and be able to get things done, it filters out what's not important. And the way that it filters out what's not important is based on what in here is telling us is important. And that comes from our childhood experiences, positive and negative, the beliefs we formed from that, and from those beliefs what we believe to be true and possible for ourselves. And in this case, we're talking about in our relationships with men. And so your brain's going to filtrate out and only show you what proves you right. It's only going to show you what you believe to be true and possible for yourself. So if you believe all men are liars, those are the kinds of men you're going to meet. If you believe all men are cheaters, those are going to be the only men you meet. If you think all men are uncommitted, them going to be the only ones texting and calling you and sending you messages on social media. So the key, again, to investing into a relationship without losing everything, the key to love not hurting is for you to not skip step one, and that is to choose wisely. And that has everything to do with what's going on in here and what you believe to be true and possible for yourself in a relationship with a man, and nothing to do with these external circumstances. Don't get caught up or twisted in the external things that people keep telling you are the reasons. No, 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 no. Whatever you believe to be true and possible for you is. Okay? So I hope that you got the value that you came here for in watching this video. Thank you for joining me for my first YouTube live. Please, if you're catching the replay, drop a comment below, #replay. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your questions. And we'll see. Maybe I'll go live once a week, and I'll maybe let you guys know the topic beforehand so you can bring your burning relationship questions. But I want to thank you for being here with me and joining me in this discussion. And yeah, I will see you next time.